Welcome to NFL Daily, where we're always watching what's happening in Duval. I'm Gregg Rosenthal in my garage and really excited to be joined on this show by Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports. You can check him out at his great podcast, Football 301, with our friends Charles McDonald and Matt Harmon, doing an awesome job all season there. Good to have you back, Nate. I was thinking you actually were on our first week of shows, and I had so much respect for your time. I'm like, man, he is grinding over there. I feel bad asking you in season. And then I heard you a couple times killing it on Bomani Jones's show. And I'm like, well, if he can do Bomani Jones's show, he can do this show. So welcome back, Nate.
I'm always available. Thank you. First off, I'm always available for you, Greg. You know, you got to carry the G load around here because I'm 0% G. You know, so so that's why this is a great pairing whenever I'm with you. No, but thank you again, always for having me. Always fun.
We're starting to do the Super Bowl bookings. I know you'll be down in New Orleans,
Yes.
and I mean it. Nate does a really good job recapping the league. He does a good job previewing games, just getting into the X's and O's, but also is a great draft mind, and that's why I wanted to talk today. Just switch gears a little bit, do a little intro to this 2025 draft, and talk a little bit about the games on Sunday night. But first, when you say 60% G, I was thinking we're doing our bookings already for some of the Super Bowl appearances, and I think we're gonna get Greg Olsen on, which I'm pretty excited about. But I was thinking I don't know if he's gonna struggle just confidence-wise being with someone that's 60% G when he's only 50. It's tough for the 1G Gregs to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, it's G-Reg and G-Reg.
That's right. G-Reg's got enough confidence. That's a great point.
Right. He's halfway there, but he was at least he has flow to make up for it. That helps it all out.
Flow for days. And since you mentioned it, every so often when the G-Reg clip pops up on Twitter, there's so many people that are like, I can't believe this ever happened, because there's still all the young kids out there. They don't even know. So if you don't know what we're referring to, I believe the Sixth Floor crew, look it up, treat yourself, and get ready for that interview. I'm excited about it during Super Bowl week. Okay, I have a theory, Nate, about the championship games.
Okay.
And about reality TV and the Super Bowl too. I love Top Chef. That's my favorite. But I would say it's true of other reality shows. You spend a whole season building up to this moment, and then there's 60 seconds of after the moment you find out who actually won to talk about it. And I kind of feel like that happens with these big games too. I'm in such a hurry to just move on to the next thing. So I did think before we get to the draft today, you've spent today grinding some film. I've been watching some as well. And I thought just a few final thoughts on this game, maybe especially about the teams that we're not going to be talking about during the Super Bowl as well. And you're such a good quarterback whisperer, just guy to listen to about. I'm curious about your thoughts rewatching and seeing Jayden Daniels on film, kind of isolating his play in this game specifically, and then just thinking about kind of what he needs, where he's going in year two.
Yeah, I would say just even this whole year, and what you saw yesterday was the first time I've seen Jayden Daniels in a while take I don't want to say bad sack, but a sack that went for yardage. Maybe that's the best way. And I want to say that as a compliment, because one of the biggest hesitations I had with Jayden Daniels coming into the NFL is, he takes a lot of sacks. He scrambles a lot. He's not that big, and he's going to take a lot of hits. I don't know how that holds up. The fact that this season, I can't recall how many big hits, quote unquote, that he's taken. Yes, he hurt his ribs, but it was kind of a freak hit that he got on that one. But I wouldn't say that as a compliment, that Jayden Daniels adapted to the NFL even more fluidly and better than I could ever expected. I knew he would be more pro ready and be a guy that could find some good answers. And I thought that's where I saw it again yesterday against Fangio. Fangio was giving him, Vic Fangio, defense coordinator for the Eagles, was giving Jayden Daniels a lot of hey, take this. We're going to see if you can keep doing it. What did he do on the first drive? Kept doing it. He just kept taking the 5-yard gains, the 7-yard gains, the 6-yard gains. What we saw yesterday was the limitations of this offense. They don't really generate a lot of explosive plays outside the go balls. There isn't a lot, Terry caught the yak touchdown, which was really nice, Terry McLaurin. But this offense, outside of those go balls, those haymakers we've seen throughout the year, The last time these two teams played, Terry caught one. The Bengals game against the Blitz, Jayden Daniels hits the 1-go ball in the end zone. Outside of that, not a lot of explosives. So what that puts a lot on the quarterback, a rookie quarterback, is he has to be precise 4 yards, 5 yards at a time. That's hard to do against a bunch of dudes, but against probably the best defense in the NFL, at least top 3, top 5 this year. And I thought so good with Jayden Daniels was he took those answers. You saw him be accurate. Saw him not have a lot of negative plays. He doesn't really put the ball in harm's way. There was one deep ball early. I did think he put ball in harm's way. And then in the end, he had the interception, but the game was kind of out of hand then. But then he took a lot of the simple answers, which is good. That's what you want to do. I've always wanted to see him maybe push over the middle a little bit. But again, saw that yesterday. Saw the dig throw. He had to Diami Brown. That was really nice. That's what I still want to see more of, is more of those in-breaking throws. The thing is, so far that hasn't limited his production. So it's more of just me maybe seeing that next step because he's an older quarterback and everything. But I'm watching him and I'm just like, he was the better quarterback on the field. I thought, even though just like overall, I really did, because I just don't think he makes a lot of mistakes, which is really good, on top of being explosive with his legs, which is really good as well. So I still want to see a little more as a thrower, maybe pushing the ball a little bit more. But as far as constant efficiency, I think he's just had a really good year. And it's been a real, I would say, pleasant surprise. But the fact he's been able to do it consistently has been pretty remarkable and really fun to watch.
Yeah, you liked him. I followed your draft coverage last year, and you liked him. But you had him third, I believe,
yep,
behind me. I knew that for sure. And the thing I was most impressed about in this game and throughout was just like he would make mistakes and he would not repeat the mistakes. I think he did some things in the pros, which makes sense. You're totally focused on it. The coaching is better and you're surrounded by better players, although his teammates were pretty good in college too. And he improved throughout the course of the season. And man, I do wonder, like year 2, I don't know if Cliff fell into bad habits, because there was another version of that game where it's like your defense doesn't have to be that bad. Your running game outside of Jayden Daniels doesn't have to be that bad. Your teammates don't have to fumble 4 times. There's another version of that game where being a relatively efficient passer wins you that game 23-20, and they don't really do much differently than they did. His teammates just play a different game. So he was kind of in a spot where I don't know if it was that was basically a no-win scenario the way that played out, where he hadn't done anything wrong and it was 14-3. They're already losing. They make the comeback. But I'm excited. Would you still take Drake May over Jayden Daniels, knowing based on all the film we've seen this year?
Oh, yeah, I would still take May. May's numbers were really good this year. No one just noticed. As far as like the underlying,
listeners of this podcast noticed. They were probably sick of me talking about Drake May.
I know. So that's not just like an eye test, like, oh, big arm, good athlete, all that stuff. It's like the underlying metrics were good for May this year too, which makes me even more like chest out about him, I guess. No, I think May is still the prize of this draft. But I will say that Daniel, and I'm still not out on Caleb either. I think Caleb did a lot of nice things this year. It's a tough situation. There are some concerns that maybe I was like, oh, okay, that maybe I waved that away, that maybe I should have focused on a little more, but he got a great coach for him, I do think. But I think Daniels was closer to those two than maybe I gave him credit for. And I also want to say he's a little older. That's the one thing. He's played a lot of games, a lot of football, and then you can see that. That's a compliment. Again, it's a double-edged sword. It's a compliment and kind of a, I wouldn't say a diss, but kind of a negative, where it's like, okay, is there more for him to grow into, or is this him the rest of his career? Which isn't the worst thing in the world.
I mean, here's the answer to that, though. It's not. Sometimes we get into this idea of like, okay, he's played a lot. He hasn't played at the NFL level. He's still 24. Like, we are seeing the best version, I think, of Jared Goff right now. Now, in the end, does he still play a little bit like Jared Goff? Yes, but I still think he's the best version that he's ever been. And I would expect that to happen with Jayden Daniels. But that's interesting that you stick with me. To me, the NFL tape should be more important than anything you've seen before. So I would certainly put him ahead of Caleb now. I'm biased, though. I would still take May ahead of him too. But I would move Jayden ahead, because I've just seen enough at this level that some of the stuff you can't even see on tape are so obviously huge positives and are good indicators of a great career, like what he's done in that building, that like you believe that he can improve all the on the field stuff in a way that like it's tough even for me to say May over Daniels now, but since you did it, you're giving me the guts to do it too.
Why I bring up the age thing is it 5% more growth from him, 10%, or where I think, and again, these are just odds you're betting on, or is it May has more room because he was with a terrible coach his last year in North Carolina, hasn't been taught anything. Is there more to tap into here? As opposed to Daniels, his last year was with Denbrock and Brian Kelly and the guys that have like really coached football. So that's kind of like the one why like a May or even a Caleb, it's like there's more to tap into here. But I think Daniels and Caleb are much more. I thought there was a difference between them as prospects. Now they're obviously much more equal. Or Daniels, I'm leaning to, like you said, the NFL tape stuff.
I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Bills game. I was glad when I saw a number that helped confirm just my vibes that I talked about kind of on our recap show, which was that the Bills felt lucky to be in that game. Compared to some other games between them, certainly the 2021 divisional round game, like it was like, yes, I would have liked to seen the Bills win. That's my bias, but I also was like, the Chiefs had one of the highest success rates that they've had, like passing the ball in a game this year. They had a way higher success rate than the Bills. The Bills fell on 6 fumbles out of 6. Josh was a little all over the place in a way that
for stride
was part of how his season ended, which I felt like the season ended maybe weeks 13 on. Really starting with that Lions game, which was a great high, and then onward it was a little up and down, and that performance was up and down. So I didn't feel like I felt like the best team on Sunday won, which I always like to feel as a fan. I did see you talk a little bit about that 4th down, and you're a former quarterback, and the condensed formation and Spags, throwing the blitz at him and wondering what Josh should have done. And I thought something was interesting today that came out from one of the offensive linemen who spoke to Tyler Dunn for his Substack, where, he said they've been showing that look to them all game and they kept not coming. And they basically saved for that moment, basically they saved to actually go. And that's why the protection slid a certain way and why it ultimately hit so much. What was kind of your view in terms of how Josh Allen handled that, and then the offensive line and everything else in that play?
It's kind of funny is that one of the biggest areas of growth for Josh Allen has been the mental side and obviously the accuracy and all that. But like he's one of the best quarterbacks pre-snap right now, which I think would maybe surprise some people. But he handles as much as the guys that we consider the sheriffs and everything. Like he changes protections. He changes
like Dak,
plays.
like who else?
Dak, Burrow, I guess would be up there. That's usually the guys that Burrow probably gets the most praise for it, and he does do it. That's why he's great. But Dak is another one. But I say Josh is up there. Mahomes is up there, of course. Mahomes is calling the fronts out as he's doing the cadence, which is so absurd to me. But that's what he's bored during a regular season. He wants new challenges. You could tell Mahomes does. So I know we're talking about Allen and stuff, but those guys are remarkable. Lamar's gotten so much better at it too. But no, those guys are really good. But anyways, that last play, it was interesting to me, and hearing that I think it was Osiris Torres that said that they were showing they showed that look but didn't bring the blitz. And then Spags puts heat on making you do the hard thing on the last play of the game, or the high variance plays of the games. If you remember last year's Super Bowl, the one where Trent McDuffie blitzed off the slot, that was another one where it kind of hadn't shown it. What happens in a lot of those gotta have it situations is, the offensive coordinators get a little cute. There was a 5-man protection with Khalil Shakir in the backfield. Okay, they know he's not pass protecting. And then last year in that Super Bowl, George Kittle's in the backfield. They sent it wasn't that exotic, but a fairly exotic blitz. George Kittle's a great blocker. He's not a running back that gets trained in pass protection. And it's not just the physical side, it's the mental side to pick up what's going on there. He just doesn't have the training. So like Spags, on that last play, the Bills offensive line is sliding left because that's what they've gotten the whole time. And on it, they should be sliding right. But if they slid right on it, and just kind of like too long didn't read version, is the little leap of faith. It's really going like, if we do this and we're wrong, we're guaranteeing that Chris Jones might be unblocked, or the defensive end that ended up dropping might be unblocked. But if we're right, we wad this up and we have all the time in the world.
And everyone's going to kill them if Chris Jones is unblocked on the biggest play of the game.
Correct. But that's what Spags makes you dare. And I bet you Josh Allen in the center, McGovern, have done that look before and have adjusted it. And I actually know they have, because I have a clip against Todd Bowles that I tweeted out from this year, I believe, where he is sliding the protection into that type of blitz to a corner blitz. It's just that when it's fourth down on the road, got to have it. Am I going to do the 501 level thing, or am I going to just do one-on-one, snap the ball, and I'm going to play? And that's what Spags does. He dares you to do it. And Allen, who is so mentally sharp now, and the offensive line, they were just dead in the water, because even if they did slide it right, say 4 guys, which is probably what they would have done, the corner McDuffie would have been free anyways, just because of a number count. If they got the perfect answer, which is sliding all 5, which you can do, that is, again, such an exotic answer to an exotic question that it's like, whew, that's the advanced level test. That's the PhD level in the biggest play of the year. So it's just, that's what they do. That's the stresses of those blitzes. And on top of it, the play before, they ran cover 0 and they try to throw a screen against it, which actually was a good call. Amari Cooper becomes a little bit of a body catcher when he's stressed. So he caught it, takes a second, slips a little, and then George Karlaftis made a nice play and retraced on it. But what I get what Joe Brady and the Bills were trying to do. They were trying to get everybody out, knowing that it might be a blitz. You either want to get everybody out, all 5 guys, and have 5 guys protecting, or you want all 7 in, and then we really block it up. But then if you got all 7 in that they don't blitz, you're wasting blockers. So again, this is the conundrum of Spags. And that's why he makes offenses look foolish like this, or makes breakdowns turn into giant discussions about everything in awful announcing articles written about your breakdowns.
Oh my gosh, that poor guy Ben Solak just getting killed.
Oh man, that is. I get why. I get that's a hard answer what he was trying to say, but holy crap, what's everyone doing? A lot of heat coming at him.
Yeah, I think it's just such a complicated sport. It's why I fell in love with the sport really when I started to cover it. Like I loved it, but it takes a few years to realize how little you know. And I'm always amazed by there are people that cover it their whole lives. They still don't realize how little they know. At least I feel like at least I realize how little I know. And you're talking about this 501 level stuff, and I find it all fascinating. And the sport works at every single level. You can shout about it, you can simplify it. And you can also simplify it to the fact that they have Steve Spagnuolo, who is one of the best defensive play callers literally of all time. That to me now the resume he is putting up is getting up there with Belichick. And one of the reasons he's getting to that level is because he sort of has the luxury. It's not his choice, but it's the luxury that's all he's doing. He doesn't have to worry about running the team while calling the plays. And the resume he is putting up year after year, the Rams talked about the weight-bearing walls of Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald and everything. It's like the Chiefs' weight-bearing walls include Steve Spagnuolo. It's either 3 guys or 4 guys. It's Mahomes, Reed, and Spagnuolo, or it's Mahomes, Reed, Spagnuolo, and I'll throw in Chris Jones just because the resume that he's put up over this long a stretch is just incredible. And so you can understand all of that. And then a guy like our friend Ben, makes a reasonable point on it. But someone sees a little bit of weakness and they attack because no one wants to be told that they don't understand the game, and they don't want, especially by someone that's like my size or Ben's size.
But Ben works at it. He actually knows ball. That's what's.
So yes.
I just want to say some of the guys. It's like, hey, keep the same energy when some of your former NFL PA
right. That's a great point.
How much can I swear on this? Spout out some bullshit. And that don't even do the work. Like, keep that same energy for that. That's what I just want to say.
That's it right there. Because Ben understands it on a deeper level than I do, and obviously not as a deeper level as like NFL coaches and players and all that stuff. But you and I know in the media, like half the ex-players are barely paying attention and don't really know ball that much anyways. And a lot of them know it at a level that I can't possibly fathom. But there's a spectrum, and some of the people with the biggest, outlets and regular jobs are following it the least. So you don't need to go too crazy with the respect.
And it's just like every field. It's a spectrum. Like some are actually those geniuses that are incredible and do all that. And I'll say this about, it's not every player. A lot of these players though, and I'm not saying the ones in media, but a lot of players aren't like, I turn on the game, I watch play 1 to play 60, and I watch every single play through on film on all 22. I had a coach make me a 7-play cut up. I had a coach make me a 12-play cut up. I had my coach make me a 5-play cut up. That's what that was, quote unquote, film watching for a lot of the guys. Not everybody. Quarterbacks obviously did a lot, but some guys, yes, they watch every play. They're junkies about it, but some, they just watch some cut ups, and some didn't even watch that. So it's kind of funny for me to like really put their chest out and yell about it. So, but no, Chris Jones, I loved you tweeted me about, I think he had 7 pressures in the first half. And I think you said he's probably putting up the resume as maybe the best playoff defender of all time or something. That sort. I don't want to.
I think it was like this.
Put words in your mouth.
I think I said this century. Yeah, just like, and it was more like the total resume. How we measure Tom Brady was ultimately about the longevity of it all. Like obviously, Aaron Donald is another level, or even Lawrence Taylor. Like they're a different level, I would say, than Chris Jones, but because he's always in the playoffs, like the resume he has put up now and the amount of playoff appearances and how many games he's literally changed the outcome of. I don't know. I don't know who else would be there over the last 25 years. I don't think anyone.
It's like him, like 2015 Von Miller was a hot year. And
well,
then
sure, that's what I mean. But
that's what I mean, but it's one single season.
He'll get a couple games every year like this. Donta Hightower had a ton of moments. Like he would be my Patriots choice. Ty Law was incredible for a couple playoffs, but
not Troy Brown when he played nickel for you guys. No, that wasn't one of them. How about Mariano Rivera? That's another playoff performer.
But Chris Jones does it. This is now 6 straight playoffs.
6 years. Yeah,
changing.
Von Miller had the Rams year too, so he's another one. Aaron Donald, of course, just because he's Aaron Donald. But that's because I loved you tweeted that, and actually I meant to talk about it on our pod. Because I always go along if you guys can't tell. And I started kind of really just thinking on it. And I was like, man, I think that's the answer though. Because I was trying to think of someone in the early aughts and I just couldn't, no one kind of came to mind. And maybe it was just because I wasn't focused on Patriots defense as much. And they're, Eagles defenders, maybe Rondé Barber, like it's, for the Bucs, like, but that was only a couple in the early aughts,
But
so like
you even think about like last year was like his pressure kind of ended the game in the AFC playoffs. There's
that's
so many
when he pushed Dawkins back, right?
Right. Yeah. There's so many where it's just like you can, if you really look into it, he completely changed the game. I went longer on this part of the show than I expected, but that's just what we do. You did perk up for a second, and I'm going to leave this Bills section with this, and I'm sorry to our producer, Eric, who's a diehard Bills fan here, but rewatching it, it did strike me that the end of Allen's season was a little weird. He had more turnover-worthy plays, according to PFF, in this game, I counted it up, than the last 10 weeks combined, which is not what you want. And you go back to his season, actually, if you think about, I'm trying to go through the games, like there was the Patriots game, which was a really weird game the first time around. He did not play well in that game. They almost lost that game. Then he bounced back. He played well against the Jets to end the regular season. He comes in, plays well, against the Broncos. And then last week, like he was barely there in a way that wasn't his fault, but also like didn't happen all season. And I was just like, what is going on here? Like Josh Allen was such a small part of this game. And then this game was a little weird. So it's just like a little bit of a up and down after what had been an incredible, possibly MVP season, just ended on a weird note.
I mean, shoot, was it early December when he had those games against the Rams and the Lions? It was like, oh my God, like this is we're not going to see this. He wrapped that MVP up right there. But it felt like in these playoff games, at least last week and this week, it almost was like we were watching Allen from a few years ago, early Allen, where it was like his biggest highlights or his best plays were the big arm throws and him as a runner. Except for the QB sneaks. that was incredible. Like props to the Chiefs defense. But anyways, but I think that's where he almost devolved into that. That first drive was worrisome if I were watching it. Like if I know Allen can be streaky early. He kind of always settles in. He's a guy that needs, a lot of quarterbacks are like this, or not a lot, but a chunk more than you would think. They need to get hit once and then to kind of just go, okay, I'm good. Like, all right, I got kind of, I was a little wild there. All right, now you kind of get slapped a little bit. And he's kind of like that. And I could tell he was kind of a little juiced up early, which is kind of reminds me of more old Allen. But the thing is Allen of this year and really of last year too, because I think this year was a continuation of it, has turned into such an everything quarterback. Now I would say the big arm plays and throwing far and the crazy plays out of pocket where he's 1 yard from the sideline, but like his in structure stuff and his accuracy, that first month of the season was tremendous until they ran into the Ravens, I think. And then the Texans game was really wonky. But I already talked about the mental side and the blitz side. That's very real. And then also just the accuracy stuff, the work from the pocket. Like, he deserves to be up there. I consider one of the elite guys. It's just that sometimes in these moments, he kind of devolves into his, I don't want to say lesser self, but more of his id. Like he listens to his id, I guess. Do you even listen to your id? But I guess
and it works sometimes too. He has the touchdown drive to tie up the AFC Championship game when he absolutely has to have it, in part because of that id. And he made a ton of plays. I'm not trying to say he played poorly, because he made a ton of plays. I mean, he's making it happen with Matt Collins, and you're right. The teammates make a big deal. Rewatching that Amari Cooper play hurt me today, because I was thinking like, oh man, like Shakir makes that first down, I think, right there on that screen. He makes the guy miss, and it's too bad.
Matt Collins with a dunk. What a beautiful dunk, though. That was pretty awesome.
Yes, trusting Matt Collins in a big spot pays off.
Against Trent McDuffie.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the draft. Before we do that, though, I do not want to forget to talk about a show that's coming up next Monday. Nate, you're not going to be able to make it. I don't think you're in Las Vegas, but it's in Los Angeles. It's hosted by our friend Mina Kimes. All the proceeds to it are going to fire relief. Thankfully, we got a ton of rain over the last 24 hours in Los Angeles, which just like never have I been so excited to just see rainfall. First of all, it's been like 8 months, which is crazy, or 10 months. I don't know when the last time was. But there's a lot of recovering that still needs to happen here in Los Angeles, and every ticket sold to this benefit is going directly to fire disaster relief. And so Mina's hosting it, but I will be there. Jordan Rodrigue of The Athletic and of NFL Daily and of Heed the Call, she will be there. Some other hosts from The Ringer, the guys that do The Watch, who are great. I think she'll have some other special guests that she's working at. It's at the Belasco Theater. It's in Los Angeles. I try not to ask our listeners for much, but if you're in the LA area and you think you'd like the show, please come out. Again, it's downtown. It's really cool. They got a beautiful theater. So I'm going to be mentioning it all week, and we will have Mina on the show tomorrow. Actually, we're going to go over all the coaching hires and everything that's been going on there, and we'll talk about the benefit a little bit.
Shoddy thoughts?
Yes. I wanted to mention that. Before we take a break, we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl and the NFL draft. Back on NFL Daily. And yeah, Nate, you mentioned the shoddy shots. We could spend a while on that.
Yeah.
But instead, we're going to break down all the press conferences. There was 4 on Monday. We're going to break that down on our next show. But Brian Schottenheimer, Liam Cohen, with a very awkward moment. The reference I started the show with. Let's listen.
Jacksonville, the community, Duval. How do we do this together?
Oh no, Liam Cohen. I was watching that and I'm thinking like that's the biting kneecaps moment of this coaching cycle. Just the facial. Just the facial. It was something about the eyes. There was something about. As I watched it though, I felt better. I mean, it's just a press conference. It's awkward. He might have felt a little defensive because of everything that happened there. And by the end, I was like, this is a good hire.
You mean the he said, she said, he's sick, she's sick thing that we had going on amongst fan bases?
It was a lot going on. But yes, we'll hit all the coaching stuff on Wednesday's show. Are you excited though about the Schottenheimer era? Quickly.
Sure, it's a big shrug, which I think is just what I think everybody's reaction to it. I don't know, man. People I tried to ask him a question. He started talking about Barry Switzer, and it was just like, oh boy, strap in. The Liam Cohen thing reminds me of Brett Bielema went to Arkansas. He was my coach at Wisconsin, and they did the Woo Pig Suey, and you could tell he thought he just had to do it once, and they did it like 3 or 4 times, and you could tell he's like, oh, we're doing it again. We're doing it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
That's what that reminds me of with the
It
Duval.
was like you got prepped by the PR guy, but right before it started to say it, and it was the first time doing it, and it didn't quite track. But good luck. I want to see good quarterback talent play well, and we'll get into that more on the next show. But I think Liam Cohen's a good one for Trevor Lawrence. Let's talk quarterbacks to start. About this 2025 draft, I preface this by telling our listeners I'm a basic when it comes to the draft. I'm excited that we have this daily format, and I don't do a lot of draft stuff until now because I'm just in it. I don't have the brain power that Nate Tice does to do a big board in the middle of October. I went and found. And
volunteer.
Yeah, you're on 4.0 of your mock draft, so you're grinding through these guys. I am excited to go to school and kind of, hopefully the listeners will be on this journey with me as we kind of learn about this draft class in particular, and this is really the start of it. So I just thought it'd be fun to have one of my favorite draft minds out there, Nate, you on, because it's Senior Bowl week, and we don't have to be too locked into everything that's going to happen at Senior Bowl week. We're also going to talk about at the end of the week how it went down. But when you look at this class overall, like not as much sizzle maybe up top because of the quarterbacks, but still an intriguing class. Like how would you evaluate like the overall class, like in terms of top shelf talent?
Oh, top shelf talent?
And like where it's strongest at.
Okay. Overall, with the quarterbacks, I'll start there. Not a great quarterback class overall at the top and depth. I would say Cam Ward is my number one guy, and then Shadur Sanders right now is two, but it's not. I don't have a true first round grade on him. It's more of like it's that next tier where I would maybe slot him in. But then after that, it's kind of, even with Shadur and Cam Ward is kind of dealer's choice, and it's your flavor that you like. I'm bullish on a guy, Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. I like a lot of his traits, but the thing is, that's bullish in the sense of like third round, not like, sneak him into the first. There's guys like Jalen Milroe from Alabama, who's a good athlete, measured in today at the Senior Bowl with very small hands, about Pickett sized, which is always concerning, but very good athlete, really improved this year.
Austin Eckler size or bigger?
8.5 or 8.75.
I love that you had an actual answer for that. Just Tom Brady hit Austin Eckler with the small hands when he fumbled on Sundays. I don't know if you caught that in the broadcast. I was like, damn, Tom, that was tough. Fumble in a big spot, and you got Tom Brady talking about your small hands. Okay, Jalen Milroe. Yeah, he's at the Senior Bowl.
Yes.
And the rest of the class?
The rest of the class is just kind of, again, it's flavors. Jackson Dart from Ole Miss has got some hype right now. He's also at the Senior Bowl. I look at him as an early day 3 guy right now. Maybe I have to dive back in, but it's a lot of those. It's a lot of early day 3 types that's like, I can maybe see him in the 3rd, as opposed to sneaking him up in the 1st. To me, Cam Ward is the only one I trust from Miami, is the only one I would feel okay taking in the top 15, and I'm sure he might even go top 5. But other than that, outside quarterback, it's a really good running back class. Really, really good at the top and depth wise, every round, every type, big guys, small guys. Ashton Genty from Boise State is going to get the most hype. He's incredible. Heisman finalist. I have a top 10 grade on him, and I feel good about it. If he can go anywhere in the 1st round, I totally get it. Then you got it's going from there. You got from Caleb Johnson from Iowa. You have the Ohio State running backs, Travion Henderson, who's a really fun guy. I think you're going to really like him because he's really good in pass protection. He's really fast. He's like a pro.
Yes. Awesome. My scouting is just watching the NFL, national championship, being like, oh, wow, these guys. And then checking out, okay, they really are going high, because they kind of look like guys that would go high. So I'm going to stop you.
Again.
Stop you at least for now. No, it's good at the quarterbacks, because Milroe and Dart are at the Senior Bowl, and so is Riley Leonard. I know you liked Riley Leonard a lot at Duke. Maybe he had a bit of a disappointing year. Milroe seems like he's so physically talented that some team's gonna love him, right?
Yeah,
but
someone's gonna swing on him.
You, for instance, were huge on Anthony Richardson. I know they're completely different quarterbacks, but they both had elite traits and are special runners, or at least you can tell me maybe Milroe is not a special runner if you don't think so, but has special speed certainly.
No, he's a very good athlete. He can fly. he's an excellent athlete. Yeah, the Richardson comparisons keep coming in, but Richardson still he's 3 inches taller, 30 pounds heavier, and probably runs the same 40 and has I think he's better. I know this is crazy to say. Richardson's feel in the pocket and everything is way better than Milroe. Even though Milroe has improved and everything this year, Richardson always had that. That's why I was always so bullish on him. Still am.
Yep, you know, and he's very young, and that I was kind of ask you about that because maybe that's why you thought it made sense with the traits that Richardson could go that high. Because I was with you. He was so good at avoiding sacks, so good at feel in the pocket, and even going through his reads sometimes. Like, is Milroe a guy you think in the lead up to the draft can do enough that he kind of gets in that mix? Because from the outside, not knowing enough, he just seems like that guy that's like, okay, you guys can tell me that he's not a first round pick now, but he's the guy that usually by the end of the process gets pushed up pretty high. And do you think he should, basically?
I don't think he should, but I think he will. I think his best case is like a Justin Fields. Like that's more how I picture him than Anthony Richardson. Not really saying the top quarterbacks right now, but that's kind of how I picture him more of. And so to me, he's more of a day 2 dart throw than a guy I would bump up even in the first round. And I know people want to make the contract stuff and everything. As soon as you put the first round grade or 1-24 next to a quarterback, he's on the field, so I'd much rather take that dart throw on day 2. I would say the Bama coaches whoever took that job after Saban was going to be under heat no matter what. I thought they did a really good job of streamlining things for Milroe in the sense of like, all right, 1, 2, go, 1, go. And I thought there's that old coaching adage, if you make a mistake, make it fast. I think Milroe was doing that much better this year. I wanted him to stay another year or figure it out how to do it, but he's entering the draft, so we'll see.
Yeah, and he'll be in Mobile, so he'll get a lot of attention.
Yep.
This week, Jackson Dart's a guy who, played in a wonky offense a little bit at Ole Miss, bombs away, that people that are fans of teams that need quarterbacks this offseason and are just annoyed that they weren't in the draft last year, and they're looking at this free agent class, and I'm just like adding up the teams, and there's just not many good options possibly out there. I think Matthew Stafford's probably the belle of the ball because I think there's going to be a sense that he's available, and we'll see. But then there's Darnold, and it's Russ and Fields after that. It's pretty slim pickings, and it's slim pickings in the draft. And yet there's about 7 teams that are going to be looking at quarterbacks in the draft. And so, man, some of those fan bases are out there. They're talking themselves into like, Jackson Dart could be our dude.
I know.
What do you think? Like, what are his pluses and minuses? And if there's like a quarterback maybe that is there in Mobile that you think might have like a week there to keep an eye on?
Yeah, with Dart, he has tools, he has traits, he put up production as a runner and thrower. The thing with that Lane Kiffin offense at Ole Miss, it's a money play offense. And so it's like, I watched Matt Corral just do the exact same thing a couple of years ago. And I feel like I'm having the conversation all over again. But with him, or with Dart, is that, I don't know, his feel, I've never gotten there with his feel for playing the position. I think he does throw a nice ball, and I do think he can make some nice plays. It always just was a hair late to me. Like, okay, it's open. Okay, now there's the throw, as opposed to anticipating the throw. I've also just seen end game situations where he's not even making the right read, and maybe it's like stresses him out, which scares me with a guy, especially if you're saying first round. He might have a week. This is the perfect type of week. He also has to show that he can grasp Lane Kiffin has a quote unquote NFL offense, but it's more about terminology. But like, as far as the depth of the playbook is probably not there at Ole Miss. And I maybe want to see him, like, how quickly he grasps his stuff, how quickly he can do 1 to 2 to 3, as opposed to like, it's a lot of one and done, because Lane Kiffin goes, this MFer is going to be wide open, you better throw it, as opposed to like, okay, you got to progress through this. So I have hesitations with him. I see him getting a lot of hype too, but again, like you guys stick to what the grade is, not like, oh, there's somebody's got to rise up. It's like, no. If you have a bunch of 3rd, 4th round grades, that means they're 3rd, 4th rounders. Doesn't mean they have to get bumped up just because they're QB3 or QB4 by default. So he's one I'm kind of always tempering. And I would say, again, Leonard is the guy that maybe has a good week, but I think he's banged up after that college football playoff. He weighed in.
It was like a week ago. It is crazy that
he weighed 210 today, so he's probably worn down. I think he's like 225 normally. So
that's brutal to go. I mean, immediately from the national championship into the Senior Bowl, into the entire draft process, into your NFL season. It already seems kind of like a brutal process, but for him and Will Howard, who knows?
Yeah, Will Howard. Yep.
Who is also there? Who do you think the highest drafted player there is in Mobile potentially? Some options. Shamar Stewart is there, who's an edge player.
Walter Nolan.
Armand Mambu, I believe from Missouri. I couldn't believe. I've been following it enough that I was surprised when my frenemy Daniel Jeremiah put him 11th in his mock draft. So that's a tackle from Missouri that maybe is rising lately.
Me and Charles had him in our first round, and people got mad at us. And all of a sudden, DJ bumps him up to top 11, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta check him out." And it's like, hey, I had him going to the Chiefs at like 30 or whatever it was that week, and everyone freaked the F out on us. Like, who the hell is this guy?
It shows you're onto something, and this happens. Like Jeremiah, he doesn't throw that in there in a vacuum because it's a mock. It's not his top 50. He hasn't released that yet. It's him talking to the rest of the league and being like, "Hey, this is gonna make me look smart in April because this dude is gonna be the dude." And I kind of showed that I knew my stuff. So
that's exactly it. No, there's some real good offensive linemen there. Josh Connolly from Oregon. And Boo, you just brought up, and there's another tackle that might be a guard, and for some reason I don't have it written down right now in front of me. Oh, and then they got Jonah Salavinia from Arizona, who's a guard that might sneak into the first round. Wyatt Milliam he's a tackle from West Virginia. I think he's a guard. But it's actually it's an interesting offensive line class. Like, there is offensive line depth. It's just not there's no freaky tackles. Like, I really like Will Campbell from LSU. He's not at the Senior Bowl, but people are like, "Oh, he's a guard." I think he can stick out the tackle, but it's a lot of. I actually want the Patriots to draft him, by the way. But I think this offensive line class and the tackles, it's a lot of like, is he a guard or is he a tackle? Is he good enough? He's a good athlete. Is he strong enough? Oh, he's strong enough. Is he? There's a lot of just tweener types that's like, this guy's a starter. I just don't know which position he's starting at, and if he's like a Pro Bowl starter or just a solid starter. But I think it's a really going to be a big time eye of the beholder offensive line class, and I think people are going to hit. Like, people are going to find some Pro Bowlers in this class. I really do think that, like late first, early second types. But it's just got to be the right fit for all these guys. But
so maybe not a good one to be looking desperately for a tackle at number 4 overall, just because it's so deep. Maybe you can go to a different position there. I will be sad if Travis Hunter is as exciting in the pros as he is that they won that stupid game against the Bills backups. Because if they were 1 overall, would you? If you had the first overall pick and you were, let's say, like the Patriots, who didn't need a quarterback but can basically use someone anywhere else, where would you go?
Oh, first off, I would try to convince everybody that Cam Ward's the greatest quarterback they've ever seen in their life. Yeah, that would be my first thing. Yeah. I would go, because this is really hard too, because it's not, I would go offensive line because I would go trenches. That's my first answer. And to me, it's like, all right, is it Abdul Carter? Is it Will Campbell? And Carter, I think, is a better player. I don't think he's as people are throwing out generational with him. It's like, come on, guys, chill. But he's a very good prospect. But it's like, do the Patriots need that? Do they absolutely need that?
Forget even the Patriots. Or think of it as a generic team, because yes, the Titans new GM makes the comment that they don't want to pass on a generational talent at one, kind of indicating like, hey, we're not going to just take a quarterback just to take it. And everyone is like, he must mean Travis Hunter, and then everyone else is like, no, actually he means Abdul Carter, the interior rusher.
Yeah, I'm always trenches first, so I would. But I have Travis Hunter as 1 on my board. So that's what's hard. That's what's hard too. If you're going best player, we do not care the position. It's truly BPA. I would say Travis Hunter. But if I
and where do you play him? What does he do?
Corner. He's a corner, and I think he's a special corner. Like he has top, all pro first team every year type upside. He's not that big too, like size wise. That's the only thing about playing both ways in the NFL I'm a little scared about. I think he's a corner full time and a receiver 4 that you play for 8 to 12 plays a game. And I just think that's what they try to use him at Colorado. He is so raw as a receiver. I feel like he only knows a quarter of the playbook, which I understand. Playing both sides is really hard full time, physically and mentally. I think it only gets harder in the NFL. So you keep that package real small and then let him just be dominant at corner. I thought of the guard, by the way, is Marcus Mimbaugh from Purdue, who I like as well. That's other guy, sorry.
And then when
Abdul
you're looking
Carter
at
is if I'm going trenches, is Abdul Carter, so it's like
okay
from Penn State. So
where else do you think the draft is weak and most strong? Because I cut you off. You said the running backs deep throughout, great at the top. Wide receiver doesn't seem like it's as flashy a class as the last few. It's okay. Yeah. Where do you think the class is at its best?
Tight end is the other position. Running back and tight end is where my eyes go, and then defensive line, defensive tackle, and edge. Like that. Those are probably the 3 top spots. Like starting on offense, like I already brought up some of the running backs, but tight end wise, I could see at least 2 going in the first round, and like that. And I wouldn't be shocked if maybe another guy sneaks in there. But like Tyler Warren from Penn State is a freak. It looks like a 3-down Y that's also explosive. I've seen Kittle comparisons. That's pretty extreme to me, but it's not like totally out of the park, out of whack to compare Kittle to that, which is that's the high end upside. I think DJ had him in the top 10.
DJ had him going 7th, which I was like, is that the Brock Bowers effect? Not that he's Brock Bowers or block. Even, the same player, but it's funny because you look at last year's draft and all supposedly the Rams want to trade up for Brock Bowers. Everyone wanted Brock Bowers. It was kind of like Mahomes back in the day. After the fact, everyone wanted, although I think it was credible. They really did want Brock Bowers. And you look at it and the Raiders kind of settled for him because they didn't get a quarterback and you thought, wow, that's high for a tight end. And now you think that's not too high for a tight end. Anyone that's a difference maker. It's the same thing as the Jahmyr Gibbs argument, except it maybe even more valuable position. And so you could see Tyler Warren, especially in this class, going higher.
Warren too is a true inline Y. Like he lines up all over. He's wildcat quarterback sometimes, but he can play inline. Bowers is a slot receiver / tight end, while Warren is truly a tight end, and I think that's a difference as well. And this is a big philosophy I have with team building. That's why I even said I would go trenches first. I'm always big about how many plays you impact. And that's why I'm always offensive line first, the edges first, before I get to receivers and corners and everything, is because I think if you're drafting a guard, guard, really? Oh, he's on the field every single play and he's going to have something to do that it impacts the play 80% of the time, 75% of the time. While if I draft a receiver in the top 10 and we're a bad team, 4 plays that, 12 plays tops, that they truly can impact it early. Maybe they learn other things that can help out their craft. So that's why a guy like Warren in this type of draft class that doesn't have a ton of blue chippers, it's kind of more, it's going to be a big kind of eye of the beholder type draft. Just take him, it's BPA. He can stay on the field because he can block for 40 plus snaps. And that's why I think it's like, all right, well, that's a difference tight end than a guy that might be receiving only, a guy that's only out there for 25 snaps or has to be hidden in the run game. Like those things really matter.
Well, or even more than a wide receiver. I present to you the Rob Gronkowski era Patriots. Not that you're going to find Gronk probably in the draft, but you have a hard time telling me that there were many wide receivers more valuable on a down-to-down basis, changing what the defenses had to do than him. And that's obviously the dream.
He's another one. Afterwards, everybody wanted Gronk. Everybody. Yeah. I at least 3 coaches I've heard over the years, not even a conversation I've been a part of, have gone, well, he was my one. When we did our draft grades, there was one guy we had to go for each position that was the gold guy. And Gronk, we were trying to come up with a different grade because he was better than gold. And I was like, well, why didn't you draft him then?
The back injuries.
Back.
Also, he was monosyllabic. I was there at his combine press conference. I never go to the players' ones anymore. I don't stay that deep into the week. We actually haven't gone in a while, but I am going this year, and I hope to see you there, Nate. And I'm excited for that. But I was there for Gronk's press conference, and it was funny. I mean, he could barely speak English. You're like, what is happening here? And they're just like, yeah, this guy with the back surgeries, but man, is he talented, and good pick.
I was always curious that he was from like Jersey and PA, and he went to Arizona. It was just, and I probably asked him. He probably had a great official visit. So it's like it was warm. It was warm.
That's why I went to Tulane. Last player I'm going to ask you about is someone you wrote about that you liked a lot, and just his profile and what I've seen from him gets me excited. Do you think Jalen Walker goes maybe a little higher in this draft because of the Zach Bond impact? Is there any Zach Bond similarities just in terms of maybe what he could do at the next level? And is everyone going to be looking for their own Zach Bond? I feel like off-ball linebackers are back to being cool again. We're going back to the 80s, like off-ball linebackers and running backs. We're back.
I love this. We just need more full cage face masks, maybe some neck rolls. It would be good. No, I love Jalen Walker. I think he's actually probably one of my favorite players in the whole draft class. I put him in my top 10 in mid-season. Even before the season, I had him in my top 20. And I was just kind of like, all this guy does is make plays. And Georgia's so annoying to watch, like as far as an evaluator, because they rotate their guys so much. They run like 500 different fronts, and it's just showing off so they can go to coaching clinics and just go like, look at this play that we ran twice the entire year. Like, like they just love doing that. And so watching Walker, it's kind of like, all right, are you an edge? Are you off ball? I just want him in my front seven. And I think I'm glad you brought up Zach Bond. That's a great comparison. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these guys right now. Van Der Esch, for the Vikings. What other Wisconsin Badgers kind of name? Leo Chanel. Just name a Badger. But
Van
all these
Ginkel,
guys.
you mean? Not Van Der Esch.
Say?
Shout out
Van
to
Der
Leighton
Esch.
Van Der Esch.
Van Ginkel, Andrew Van Ginkel, not Leighton Van Der Esch. My bad. AVG.
They all look the same,
Yeah, right. Three. Yeah, my bad there. But no, these guys. I think that's more of we see it with defensive linemen where it's like, oh, this guy's an outside linebacker, but when we go to nickel, they're a defensive end, which now we just call edge. And I think that the Bond thing, what you see is, oh, this guy's got pass rushing ability. So let's use him on simulated. So let's use him on blitzes, creepers. And you're just, okay, we're still only rushing 4, but the guy that's got pass rushing chops is now rushing the passer against a guard. And then now we're dropping one of those outside linebackers. We see the Rams do this all the time, dropping one of those outside linebackers into coverage. And you're just inverting the roles. So when you get a guy like Bond, who actually has some coverage chops, is good against the run, it's kind of one of these guys that's like, oh, this is what you should have been the whole time. When they do come on these creepers and simulators and blitzes, they're still a weapon and everything. So I really like him with the Cardinals. That's been kind of my ooh, I like you there. But really, I mean, any creative defense that you can picture, I would like Walker on it. But again, like I said, when this type of draft class without true blue chippers, he to me is a blue chipper. It's just I don't know what position he's at. So, but I just think he's one of the best players, a top 10 player. So I think he should go high.
Yeah, I always, get a little worried about those type of guys, Isaiah Simmons, right? And but the Cardinals would know what to do with them. Your funky favorite tape grinders coaching staff, the Arizona Cardinals. They came through for you. Both you and Jordan were pretty excited about them coming into the season. And I know it didn't end well.
Got a little worried there.
It was up and down, but I think if you look at it, the total view, ultimately, they took a nice step forward for you.
Yeah, they did. It's, now I got to study Kyler too. Kyler becomes one of the most, kind of an enigma as far as studying wise, because it's just like he's one game he looks, I'm like, oh, wow. Like, no wonder you were an MVP candidate that year. And in some games, it's like, oh man, Kyler, what are you doing, man? Like, what? So I maybe year 3 with this coaching staff is going to be like another leap forward, which I'm excited about.
I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to the build up to the draft, the whole process. We got free agency coming up, really the end of the conference championships. Even though I'm really excited for the Super Bowl, I'm excited to go to New Orleans, and next week's going to be all about that. We're going to have lots of great guests. I do feel like today, as we're taping this, it almost feels like the first day of the offseason because there's literally one more game, and there's a whole, as Ian Rappaport said on Twitter, there's a whole parallel NFL that is going on right now in Mobile, and they have moved on to 2025. We're coming up on the week where Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins were both like quietly talking to other teams, and then next week is the week that they actually join those teams. So it is coming around the corner, and we're going to be covering it all on NFL Daily. You stepped up in a big way, Tice, this year. You did it. Football 301. You got your own show. You were on NFL Network on Good Morning Football. Here and there. You were on Bomani Jones's show. All of it. You're writing a lot. You're a draft expert. I really recommend everyone go check out Football 301 and subscribe. I'm always really impressed, Nate, when you guys do a kind of an abbreviated recap show, and you'll cover like a big game, and you do it in like 4 minutes, and then you just move on to the next game. I'm like, wow, you can do that? That's amazing. Like, good job.
It's my own lack of hosting ability.
It's really not. Like, you're
concise.
Say
make a mistake. If you make a mistake, make it fast. Just do it quick. Just get through it.
Very well said. It's like
I really
hit these
appreciate
really
that.
key points, and you'll move on. And so you've killed it. And
thanks,
I'll
Greg.
continue to check it out, and I'll continue to bug you during the whole draft process. That's it for today's show. Thank you, Nate. Play the music.
Thanks, Greg.
Like I said, we will be back. It's a big show. It'll come out early Wednesday morning. We got Mina Kimes. We got Jordan Rodriguez. We got Colleen Wolfe. We're going to go through all the coaching hirings and the coordinators, a lot of weird stuff, the press conferences. And yes, when we're talking senior ball, you know football is back. We'll see you Wednesday.